I would say that advice I would give to founders instead of what's going wrong. Number one, startups seem glamorous in the newspapers and the press, but it's lots of failure. So be ready for failure and fight with grit and resilience.
Wow. Fine. So, one of the best thing, one of the worst thing I would say that you have faced the problem working with startups. So you're working a lot with a lot of startups and you're linked to a startup ecosystem very deeply. So what are the problem that you think which is currently happening at mass level in startups and that you feel so that need to be solved in a short span of
Look,
time?
I think we're in a very good place with the Indian startup ecosystem. And I think we're much better placed than when I started. I found founders much better prepared. The quality, the conversation, the clarity of vision is much more. I think one problem we are facing is our ecosystem is growing faster than we can keep up with. And so we don't
Okay.
have enough mentorship and support in the ecosystem. So that's something that I spend a lot of time on. That's why I've taken a 7:15 a.m. flight on a Saturday to come to Indore and spend time with people here, right? Because I feel like in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, maybe Hyderabad, there's enough of this ecosystem being built, but there needs to be stuff built in Indore, in Chandigarh, in Surat,
Yeah.
um, and that's really important. So I think we need to all work towards building a strong ecosystem. I would say that advice I would give to founders instead of what's going wrong. Number one, startups seem glamorous in the newspapers and the press, but it's lots of failure. So be ready for failure and fight with grit and resilience. Number two, you can't do it alone.
Hmm.
Um, I thought as a young 24-and-a-half-year-old entrepreneur, I could spend 16 hours a day and get everything done on my own. Reality is that 16 into 1 is 16 and 8 into 5 is 40. So 8 people working 5 hours a day or 5 people working 8 hours a day is much more efficient than one person working 16 hours a day. And by the way, you can't work 16 hours a day efficiently, right? And the third thing I would say is this is something I'm seeing off late. Lots of young people saying, hey, I'm doing my job and I'm doing my startup as a side hustle. And then once my startup becomes big, I'll quit my job. Your podcast, my podcast, that's my hobby, right? I
Yeah.
do it just to do it to keep engaged. I enjoy doing it. But scalable startup cannot be built part time, and it won't scale until you do it full time. So it's a
Okay.
chicken and egg, but you got to take the plunge. And if you're not ready to take the plunge, that's fine. But don't operate a startup part time.
Yeah. So
As my
now
dad said, you can't be slightly pregnant with entrepreneurship. You're either in or you're out.
yeah. So I think job is also best fit. It's not like that a lot of people hating the job for the fact like job nahi karna, I'll go for startup, I'll be entrepreneur with the founder. Again, they are chasing the glamorous side.
Yeah, don't be an entrepreneur for glamour. Be an entrepreneur to solve a problem, because if you do it for glamour, you'll realize very quickly that it's not so glamorous.
Yeah, it is not. So I totally relate to the fact that you're working like you want to work individually, wholesalely. Now, if you talk about some industry, some areas niche that India is from the western part of the world, so you're well connected with all the global broad bodies and everywhere. So what do you think? So what is the one thing that India is lacking behind, and there's a very good scope in those particular industries and niche which is not developed yet. If you want to highlight couple of them.
Yeah, look, I think we have lots of scope still in health and wellness,
Okay.
in unique products. We have a lot of scope in pet. Pet is a very upcoming category. I'm very excited about that category. Sports and home and kitchen. I just did up a new home, and yeah, we
Yeah.
struggle to find so many options online. So I think home, kitchen, sports, exciting spaces as well. And I think we need to have more Indian brands go global. I think that's where we are lacking as a country. We need to take our story and take it global. I didn't have time or the bandwidth to do it at Dr. Vedas, and that's something I regret, that we couldn't take Dr. Vedas global. But I would love to see tens of hundreds of D2C brands from India going global and captivating imagination. We've seen a few brands do it, but there's lots more to be done.